And we are live. Welcome to NBA Live Before Lock. It is Thursday, May 22nd. I am Josh Engelman. That is Greg Ehrenberg, and we are here for Game 2 of the Western Conference Finals. OKC picked up the first one. Do they get the second one? Can this game be better than yesterday? Absolutely not. But we can still have some fun, watch some good basketball. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so you know when everything goes live. Follow us both on Twitter. What's up, dude?
Yeah, last night's game was sick awesome. I feel like I've said 5 times this postseason that game I just watched was the best game of the season, but I feel really good the last game actually was the best game of the season. Yeah. I can't imagine what would have to happen for that game to be topped. It would have to be some like triple overtime game in the finals or something like that. But yeah, last night's game was sick. Everything about it was awesome. I would have preferred if it was somebody other than Aaron Nesmith that caught fire and hit 6 threes in a 2-minute stretch. But we move on to tonight.
Yeah, shout out Chris Williams, friend of the program, always hanging out in playback. He got stat corrected out of first last night from the Tyrese Halliburton turnover.
Well, it wasn't a stat correction.
And the cat steal.
Yeah. It wasn't a stat correction as much as a really shitty beat. Like all time. Yeah. The circumstances, it's an all-time shitty beat, but it's at the one good part is it's not like it was a Millie Maker or something like that. Like there are ones like that where people have lost where like I was talking with Belman after the baseball show. We were talking about there was a Thursday night football game with the Chargers a couple of years ago where there was a sack that got taken away from a defense. They changed it to a run play, and that 2-point swing took the guy out of a solo millie and dropped him down to like 50th place or something like that. So there's been bad beats. That one's up there though. So shout out to Chris, one of the good guys, longtime supporter of the program. Really, really shitty beat last night. Really shitty beat.
Now we're here for game 2, and it feels a lot like game 1. I don't have like the pricing. You mentioned it before. I kind of agree. It all just kind of feels same today. Do you just in general expect anything different out of either of these teams?
No, I'd say like the difference in between the show that we're doing today versus the one we did Tuesday is OKC made like very minor alterations to the rotation. Nothing that is going to sway their title odds or their chance of winning these games or anything like that. But it is relevant to the slate that they had as the last man in Kenrich Williams as opposed to Jalen Williams with a Y. And that is something that we now know while we're building our lineups. That wasn't something you or I anticipated on Tuesday. So I don't expect anything to change for either of these teams from game 1 to game 2. It's just we know what those changes are, whereas we didn't know that was going to be the change in game 1.
Same page. If they do anything, it's not because I expected it to come for this one, at least. We got updated ownership a couple seconds ago, I think. Yep. 803 is the last time stamp that I see in the data hub. So I've got that pulled up on the screen right now. 32% ownership to Shea, 12-4 in the captain. Well, not 12-4 in the 12-4 in the flex, 1.5 times that in the captain. 11-8 for Anthony Edwards, 13% owned, along with J-Dub at 13 and Randall at 10. So you've got Shea by a mile, Ant not even close. 3 guys in that same 10%, 10 to 15 range. What are we doing here? Because that's a lot of captain ownership for Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, but it also seems very easy to get him there.
Yeah, so I am going to rerun Sims just for the updated ownership because, why not take advantage of the most recent data? But I did peek at what my exposures were and kind of like compartmentalize them before I close the screen to rerun the Sims. Shea in more than half my lineups as the captain before. I was getting different in, honestly, some of the same ways I was getting different on Tuesday. There's still some guys I like at somewhat modest ownership, but I do think that SGA by a pretty wide margin is the best overall guy to be playing in the captain spot. There's other guys who are worth taking shots on, but I don't have any sort of issue with the ownership going to SGA as a captain.
Do you look at Ant, J-Dub, and Randall and have a lean since they're all sort of that same different price point for Edwards compared to the other two guys, but similar ownership. Do you have a lean there between those guys?
So my personal lean is also still the same as Tuesday, which is not a guy I like as much as a guy I dislike. And it's with Ant and SGA being similar in price. I just have to prioritize SGA over Anthony Edwards. He did end up having an okay game last time out. SGA ended up having the much better fantasy outcome, though. It's such an easier matchup for SGA than it is for Ant. And that's not even because it's an easy matchup for SGA. It's a hard matchup against Minnesota. But this OKC defense, they have so many top caliber defensive guards to throw at Ant, and they just make his life difficult for him. And then when you consider there's only a $600 difference in the salary in the flex spot, it's only a $900 salary difference in the captain spot. And then also, Ant is still pretty popular. It would be one thing if Ant was, and I know that the captain ownership is different between the two of them, but the flex ownership is still the same. It could be one thing if Ant was like really low owned or anything, but he's still the second highest owned captain on the slate. So for me, if I'm going to be getting away from SGA, it's going to be somebody who's a little bit cheaper than Edwards for the most part. I'll have some of Edwards, but I'll be underweight to the field.
So you're going, do you see anything viable to you sub Chet? Because we get that conversation a lot, like who's the best cheap captain? There's never a good answer because there's a reason these guys are 2% owned, because that's how frequently they're likely to be there. Does anybody jump out to you in the non-top 5 guys? Because we have a pretty clear line in the sand in terms of captain ownership there.
All right, stand out to me. I think there are guys worth taking shots on, but nobody who I'm like, that's the guy. Like nobody who I want to be like, I'm playing 15% of that guy or anything like that. Okay. So nothing to that end. One thing I do think is potentially kind of interesting, even though I didn't have all that much from, maybe that'll change when I update stuff here. Gobert's $5,800. You said below Chet, right?
Yeah. Sorry, when I was talking about below Chet, I don't mean necessarily from salary, although I think that's going to work out the same way anyway. I was just going based off of the ownership table and him being the next guy down, but it's the same principle. There is nobody like Chet's the line in the sand either way.
Yeah, it's the same exact line, like you were saying, because Chet's pulling what 8% captain ownership, and then everybody above him is like around that mark, and then everybody below him it's 2% or less. So the DiVincenzo 3% owned. He's the most popular punt, but you know we're splitting hairs. It's 3% versus 2% for all these other guys. Rudy Gobert, just because we know he has a ceiling, he's a good fantasy producer. And while I do think this is more of a Naz Reid series than a Rudy series, we're now in a situation where Naz Reid is $400 more expensive than Rudy Gobert. The ownership, it's pretty, the same between the two of them. But there's a scenario here where the game kind of stays competitive. And in the regular season, if Rudy Gobert was at this price point, he would have been somebody who we're playing, a ton of. It's just tough because the game scripts don't set up well for him. But I do think that he's more than 2% likely to be in the winning lineup as a captain.
I hope I have him. I kind of think this is more of a Rudy Gobert series than a Naz Reid series for Minnesota to actually have success. And I don't know how well that's going to work out for me because Gobert blows offensively, but I think they might need him to just wall off the rim a little bit more. And if that's the case, I'm hoping that I can get to a little bit more of him than I had earlier, at least. I'm about to favorite my lineups right now and find out actually how much I have, but he's a guy that I did want more of. And as of right now, second most guy over the field. Projected for 26, got 37.
Nice.
Yay me.
Nice. Yeah, so game one, another reason, too, that I do think they're probably more likely to play Gobert than Naz Reid. Game one, Naz Reid played 28 minutes. Gobert played 21. That kind of rounding there. Like they ended up splitting the minutes 48, but it was just with the rounding. That's how it works out to be. So they did lean more minutes towards Naz than they did to Gobert. A big part of that, though, was simply because of how much they were down in the fourth quarter where they just needed the shooting. In a more competitive game, I do think it's more likely to be Gobert on the court. It's just not all that likely that those games are going to be competitive.
Now that I agree with. I'll talk through my leverage plays right now just because I think that we're kind of there for it. It's Gobert was second for me at flex. The guy that's the highest for me right now, I don't necessarily love. It's Dante DiVincenzo. Didn't anticipate him being that guy. Do you have any feel here? Because I kind of wish that I was getting more Nickeil Alexander-Walker and less of Dante DiVincenzo.
I have more of Nickeil Alexander-Walker.
Fair.
Another guy too. I feel the well. I shouldn't say I feel the exact same. I feel better about my stance on Tuesday, which is there's this narrative that kind of matters. Chris Finch believes that because Nickeil Alexander-Walker and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander are cousins, they grew up together, they're really close, they played a lot of basketball with each other, that there's a familiarity there that gives Nickeil Alexander-Walker a better chance to guard SGA than most other players on the roster. So we've seen this when these teams match up, and the same thing held true in game one. He likes to give a little bit of extended minutes to Nickeil Alexander-Walker. That ended up coming true in game one, and his price point hasn't really moved. He's a little bit more popular, but I don't think he's popular enough. So he's somebody who I don't think he's a captain option or anything like that. But as a flex option at $2,800, I think he's the best punt play on the entire slate if you're looking sub 3K guys.
I'm essentially neutral to him right now, but everything you just said is something that I wish I had a little bit more of. Grading out with a really nice sim ROI as well. I'm going to see if I'm just going to give him like a very generic boost, but I don't think it's going to move him too much. I might run another one just in case to take a deeper look at this because I'm not happy with it. I want more of him. He was a guy that I angled for a little bit earlier today, and now it doesn't appear that it's happening. Anybody else that you have any sort of extreme stands on right now, either positively or negatively? Because I think that's sort of the best talking points that we can get to. Just what don't we have or what do we have?
Yeah. So the other guy who I'm actually a little bit surprised he's not pulling more ownership, and not that I have a ton of him, it's just easy to be overweight to the field. Kenrich Williams is nearly the min price, and he's pulling 5% ownership. He's not somebody who's going to go out and play, 20 minutes or anything like that, but he's probably going to be playing 8 to 10 minutes. And in a scenario where Kenrich Williams plays 8 to 10 minutes and just knocks down his shots like he did last game, all of a sudden you get a guy who, if he could put up 8-9 fantasy points, and let's say SGA and Anthony Edwards both have good games, then it's like you just need those salary savings somewhere. Yeah. And then if you're looking at the guys who are around like 1K, the only ones that I really view as being viable are Isaiah Joe and Kenrich Williams, and I prefer Kenrich Williams to Isaiah Joe for the $600 in salary savings and the lower ownership. He's about a third owned.
Yeah, I think Kenrich is more interesting than Joe today, given the cheaper price tag and the half as much ownership. Plus, maybe people are a little bit more likely to click on Joe from game one because it went pretty well for him. Kenrich was sort of just an afterthought, so Joe probably has a little bit more of like the casual eye on it too. Oh, what do you think of Cason Wallace being the like chalk value play du jour? 3,400, 43% owned. The only people that are more owned than him are all $500 more expensive. Looked great in game one. Got big old defensive assignment. Played a lot of minutes. I think he's got a minutes floor. We got to remember, like, he's still extra young here. If that shot's not falling and they're allowing him to take them, which they might, like, they have other options to not have him out there. He makes me nervous at that ownership number.
I'm even with the field on him. I'm right in line there. If you do want to get different, I think this is where Nickeil Alexander-Walker could come into play. He's $600 cheaper. He's also not like crazy lower owned, but 33% relative to the 40% ownership that there is there on Cason Wallace. But the 40% ownership, it seems about reasonable to me considering how cheap he is. I mean, I came in like right in line with the field on Cason Wallace. So no real stand there. I do agree with you. There's a scenario here where Kenrich Williams, he played well last game. Maybe they want to get Kenrich Williams a couple extra minutes. They come from Cason Wallace. Maybe Aaron Wiggins actually hit shots today because he didn't do anything last game. And then all of a sudden you get him play a couple of extra minutes with Cason Wallace losing some. So I do agree with you that there's maybe more of a floor than people realize, but he's so cheap that he lands in lineups anyway.
I'm just finishing off my filters now. I did go ahead and just rerun another set. I'm hoping that when I look at this, Nickeil Alexander-Walker is in a little bit more, but if he's not, he's not. I'm not going to go too crazy over it. but I just don't want Dante DiVincenzo, even though he is the guy that I would want to cheer for in this game. Let's find out. Favorite custom 150. I guess I could have just clicked the button.
Yeah, I have.
I don't know. Oh, neutral. 31, 2% positive. I'll take it. Still
I
playing
have,
a shit ton of DiVincenzo though.
I have Nickeil Alexander-Walker in more than half my lineup. So I'm uploading everything right now. Pretty sure that's going to be, unless there's, something wild that breaks, which isn't going to happen. I've got Nickeil Alexander-Walker. Yeah, he's in more than half my lineups. By far my most rostered punt option.
I'm going to upload these right now, and then we can start digging into questions if anybody has them. We can take a look at Discord if they're there. We can poke around on the FanDuel side if we need to. People can just take a break right now. Click the link in the description. Sign up for Portfolio EV at OddsShopper. You can do that and get a 7-day free trial whenever you want it. But this is always out there. If you've never signed up with us before, you can see it on the screen right now. It took me a little bit to be able to click on that one. There's like 4 different graphics there that all have that same green color, and I couldn't figure out which one it is just off the top of my head. 7-day free trial. Take a market-based approach to beating the books. You'll get expected value on the screen in front of you, an OddsShopper rating. Shop across all of the books. Find the best line for you. Odds boost calculators, parlay builders, mass entry, mobile alerts, and the portfolio feature where you can look back at all of our historical results, build out the niche you're looking for, and just get alerts for those specific bets. And you could break that down however you want. 7-day free trial. If you've never signed up, link in the description. All right, I got my lineups saved. I got my lineups uploaded. If something happens to change these lineups, that will be very interesting in the playoffs. So I'm feeling pretty comfortable. Chat, get your questions in. Discord, get your questions in if you have them. Let's talk questions. How do you filter to only see 4-2 stack? You don't, correct?
Yeah, that is also not something you should be all that concerned about. Well, actually,
I guess you can.
So but but you shouldn't. Like, what would be the reasoning for this slate that you would only want to do that? So how you do it is, so that is Pat Ganji Swish said that. So if you see where it says stack on your screen, you could, oh, here we go. Perfect. The easiest way to do it, Josh, the 3 dots right there and filter, and then you could type in, say like MIN4, and you could find the different ones you're looking for. But I'd be interested to know, like, what's the use case where you only want to be playing 4-2 stacks? Like, I don't know what the reasoning would be.
I'm going to snap a screenshot of what I just did and drop that into Discord.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, the other thing you could do as well to make it like really easy, if you just put in if you want to make it a specific team, you could do like Minnesota or whatever. If you just press 4, then it would only be the 4.
Yeah. I wanted to show, like, if you wanted it to be this specific team, it's this 4, if it's not. But yeah, just a 4 in that column will get you exactly what you need.
Yeah.
I would not care at all about doing that.
No. There's not like a super compelling reason to me that I'd be like, oh, this is the slate where I only play 4-2. Like you're just taking, there's only a limited amount of lineup combinations for Showdown. You're removing so many possible combinations if you're only playing 4-2s.
Yeah. It's just unnecessary. Kepanakella wants to know, to be different in single entry, who's the single entry captain?
So if you absolutely wanted to be different in single entry, like you had to do something different. Well, obviously you're not playing SGA then. He's not the way you get different. He's the most popular guy by a mile. The one that I am most overweight to the field to outside of SGA actually is Nickeil Alexander-Walker. I ended up with 5% of him.
Okay.
He's 1% owned. So if we're going really contrarian, he's kind of the answer I give by default. And there's only so many guys to choose from. If you're looking to be, unless Kepanakella by contrarian just means not SGA. If it's anybody not SGA, then I'll say Julius Randle. If it has to be one of the guys who's lower owned than, Randle, Jalen Williams, Edwards, and Chet, then in that scenario, I'm going to say Nickeil Alexander-Walker.
I don't really think I have one, which is not really a great answer for this question, but like my exposures don't line me up thinking I would have something super different at the captain spot, just based on the way that I'm looking at my Shea exposure. If it can be one of the 10% guys, it's Chet for me. If it can't, I mean, the most I have of anybody at captain that isn't one of the main guys is 4% of Dante DiVincenzo. So, like, I'm not even separating from those guys either.
The one caveat I would add for single entry, though, is SGA is probably going to be like 50% owned at the captain in single entry, which does kind of change the dynamic for those fields. So for large field tournaments, like my guy's just rolling with Chet. I'm not playing single entry for today. I'm just playing like some of the $4 and then some like the lower dollar 150 max stuff. But yeah, if I was playing single entry, I think I would go with Nickeil Alexander-Walker and just get myself on a completely different build than the field.
That will be very different. That's for sure. That's not a question I can answer on the show. What else we got in chat right now? What about Cason Wallace as a captain in DK Cash? I haven't run anything even remotely close to Showdown Cash for right now. It's not. It wouldn't shock me if it's I would imagine it is, but I'm not. I haven't run any optimals, so I have no idea what comes to the top of the list at this point.
Yeah, so I will.
I'd be shocked if it wasn't SGA.
Yeah, if I sort by just lineups that I have projected the best, SGA's in all of the top ones. But the other issue with this too is for cash games, you basically want to be playing the most chalky players. Like it doesn't have to necessarily be you go down the line of ownership and you're just plugging in every player exactly in terms of the highest owned players. But you do want to have the most owned players. And if you're not playing like 60 to 70% owned SGA in cash games, and he goes out and has a big game, you're just drawing dead against the field. Just play SGA in cash at the captain.
We do have a couple of the highest projected lineups in my 5,000 lineup field with Cason Wallace in the captain. I'm intrigued by what's actually up there for the optimal, but I don't know. I'm RIP Fantasy Cruncher, you know?
Yeah.
Can't run that shit right now.
Yeah.
Wouldn't even know where to go.
Yeah, there are different ways to play tournaments and, you know, single entry versus large field. For cash games, I'm pretty confident. Just play SGA.
Yeah, he's going to be making up the predominant amount of highest projected lineups for sure.
Yeah.
What else we got here? We got 6 minutes left. What'd you say?
I was saying we could touch on FanDuel really quick as well.
I thought you said Julius Randle.
Oh, no.
I was just FanDuel. Like, hey, yeah, I mean, like, you know, he's out there.
FanDuel to me is more or less the same as DraftKings, other than they fucked up Naz Reid's price again, so he's still $4,800. Hartenstein's $5,600, so just play them a bunch as value options and mix in the high price guys. I really hate how FanDuel's been doing their pricing for this series because you don't have to consider the other cheap guys in the same way. Like there isn't a real reason that you'd want to be taking a chance on Kenrich Williams when you could play Naz Reid or Hartenstein for like marginally more expensive prices.
Yeah, Shea coming in on the DraftKings side, 39% in the MVP. It's a little bit more than what he is on DraftKings. You've got Ant at 12, J-Dub at 10, Chet at 8. So, it's a little similar. They're a little bit lighter owned, those guys, but nothing too crazy. It's all sort of directionally the same. And then you just have like little differences between the extra guys. And that's why it makes the analysis in this particular case so difficult, because it's just like marginal salary changes that make things one thing on one site and one on the other, not basketball related conversations. It's just like Naz Reid is stupidly priced on FanDuel, so you play him more. That doesn't make him more like a better option in game 2 in life. But we can't do anything other than play with the salary. And in this case, you got to play some Naz Reid on FanDuel.
Yeah. And you know, same with Hartenstein. He's $5,600.
Yeah.
So you look at the bench guys, for instance, Cason Wallace is $4K. So it's, you know, in the same neighborhood where his DraftKings price is. The difference though is that Hartenstein's $5,600. Gobert's $5,800. Reed is $4,800. So Cason Wallace shows up in some lineups. It's just a completely different scenario.
Let's see. What else do we got going in here right now? Chat, hit that like button if you haven't done it yet. 1,000 of you in the door. 4.5 minutes to go until lock. We will be live on playback after this, but Greg and I will be not talking through it. The game will be there. If it's competitive, late in the game, I will pop on, I hope, and talk a little basketball, but I can pretty much guarantee that I will be live on playback tonight if it is close, because I gotta head to the airport at midnight tonight and pick people up. So I have no reason to not just be around and go on to playback if we're around.
Yeah, I've got
it worked out yesterday.
Yeah. My dad's coming up from Florida because my parents retired. They live in Florida, but they come and stay at my house in the summer. And I've convinced my dad that the weather's nice here. It's time for him to come up. And the weather immediately got shitty as soon as he booked his flight. So his flight has been delayed for like 6 hours. And I told him it's been 75 degrees and sunny here every day, 50 degrees and raining today. So he's going to think I hoodwinked him.
It's 75 here right now. Next 9 days are 79, 76, 79, 74, 77. You tell him, just fly to Wilmington, North Carolina. I'll put him up for a bit. All right, what do we got here? Anything in chat? Josh, Wallace, Nas, or Kenrich? Oh, Wallace and Nas, or Kenrich and McDaniels. That's got to be Wallace and Nas.
It's the first for me.
Yeah. That's easy.
Who are you afraid of ruining your night? Who's the guy who's most likely, whether it's because you played too much from or didn't play enough of them, who's the guy you look at and just be like, this could be problematic for me?
Donte DiVincenzo.
In terms of playing, what was your...
I have too much of him.
Okay.
And if that shot's not falling early, I think he's just going to lose time. I think we might see more of Mike Conley today than we did in the first game, and if that's the case, I'm nervous.
Yeah, I only.
But if Donte DiVincenzo just makes his shots in the first quarter, then he's just going to be out there. So that's the only other like saving grace for me.
Yeah, I only have 16% of Conley. He's projected for 23% ownership, so underweight, not like in a like crazy way or anything like that. But yeah, it would be suboptimal for me as well if Conley went out and had a massive game. The other one for me would be if Anthony Edwards outscores SGA, because I have so much more of SGA in the captain spot. My final number on Anthony Edwards, I have 6% of him in the captain spot when he's projected for 13% ownership, and SGA is in more than half my lineups in the captain spot. So if Edwards has a ceiling game and SGA plays like he did for the first 3 quarters last game, he ended up being, he crushed in the fourth quarter and made good on everything. But if SGA has a mediocre game or a stinker tonight and Edwards outscores him, that would be an issue for me, unless one of my like 9 Edwards captain lineups is the nuts.
Same. I don't need Anthony Edwards to be good. I'm under on both spots. I need Shea desperately. But my biggest positive leverage play was Donte DiVincenzo. 11% over the field. I have 40% of him. My biggest negative leverage play is Lou Dort, and I don't mind that one all that much. Plenty of ways for that can go wrong. Although, again, all it takes is him making a couple shots, and he's just going to be out there because it's not like they got to take him off for defense.
Yeah, nobody's really playing Dort. He is 13% owned. Yeah. I've got 12% of him. He's probably the guy who has the most minutes upside for the least amount of ownership today. He's just such a shitty fantasy producer. And that even gets more magnified in the playoffs because he's not capable of creating any of his own offense. It's just solely like, can he have a Nesmith game? Like that's what he needs. Is he going to go out and make like 6 of 7 threes?
Who covers?
I'll go with OKC again.
Okay. I agree. I think this is just the OKC series, especially at home. I just don't think Minnesota has answers to what they need. This defense is just too good. Playback.tv/Stokastic. Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, because people have been complaining about the refs in the chat. Do you know how many fouls each team had last game?
I'm going to go ahead and assume that it's going to prove the point the opposite direction. Or they're the same.
So in game 1, There were 22 fouls called on the Wolves. There were 22 fouls called on OKC. It was the exact same number of fouls called on each team.
Let's also remember that Oklahoma City takes like the least amount of free throws in the league.
They just have one guy who's really good at drawing free throws.
Yeah. I don't think anybody seems to care about that. Like, they're not out there on the line constantly. I think they were 28th. I'm looking it up right now just before we go. Cleaning and Glass had it at 23rd. I think Dunks and Threes has them at a little bit higher than that. It's just about the way that you classify possessions, and Cleaning and Glass takes out garbage time. But yeah, they don't go to the line all that frequently. And they had the 5th highest free throw rate allowed on defense. So it happened then. They were giving them up. We'll watch it all on playback right now. Playback.tv/Stokastic. Greg, anything else?
No, just enjoy the game. If you guys are going to sign up for a playback subscription on our channel, just going to let you watch the rest of the games for the postseason. If you want to DM me on Twitter, I could hit you up with a code to get 50% off any package on the site. Other than that, I'll be in chat a little bit. Josh will be in chat a little bit. And yeah, enjoy the game.
There we go, everybody. See you soon. Go Thunder.